The Wrestling Kennection.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the latest edition of the Wrestling Connection. I am your host with the most, your connection to the wrestling world, Ken Hill. My partner in crime, the madman himself, Zack is on vacation this week, so it's just me, myself, and I here. But I promise to bring you twice the fun here on the Wrestling Connection. It is pay-per-view weekend, so we have our regular scheduled show, plus an extra 20 minutes where we'll preview this upcoming Sunday's WWE Payback pay-per-view and our pay-per preview special. In the meantime, though, we're going to review this past week on Raw. We kicked off Monday Night Raw with the Authority, Stephanie McMahon, and her husband Triple H, trying to figure out who let the Shield down to ringside during Batista and Seth Rollins' match, where Triple H was the guest ring announcer and Orton was the guest timekeeper. Typical Evolution tactics, only for the Shield's Roman Reigns and Dean Ambrose to introduce themselves as the special guest commentators, courtesy of Raw GM Brad Maddox, who the Shield gave some convincing to. In that same token, Stephanie and Triple H this week called out Brad Maddox to explain himself as to why he let the Shield down to ringside. Brad explained that he was simply forced into it, but Stephanie and Triple H weren't very accepting of that reason, and as you can see here, they didn't take this too lightly, sicking the director of operations, Kane, on Brad Maddox, choke slamming him, tombstone pile driving him, and just to top it all off, Stephanie gave Maddox those oh so famous or infamous McMahon words, "You're fired." A decent opening segment for Monday Night Raw, and would have been a little more poignant if anyone had actually cared about Brad Maddox as Raw general manager. Suffice to say, though, the Authority doesn't let any of its lackeys off easy for screw-ups. The Authority wasn't quite done, as Stephanie had posed an ultimatum to WWE World Heavyweight Champion Daniel Bryan, who had successful neck surgery this past Thursday, last Thursday, had successful neck surgery, and the state of the WWE World Heavyweight Championship was in flux. We weren't sure if Daniel Bryan was just going to be stripped of the title outright, if he was going to hold it until he returned from injury, or if there was going to be some tournament or other to determine a new champion. It was revealed, for more or less, this past week on Raw, when Bryan came out to confront Stephanie in the ring, and stated to Stephanie that as much as Stephanie would love Bryan to relinquish the championship, it would have made everything that Bryan worked up to WrestleMania, fighting for the majority of 2013 up to WrestleMania 30, would have made all of Bryan's efforts and all of the fans' efforts supporting him fruitless. So essentially, Bryan refused to give up the WWE World Heavyweight Championship, and along with the WWE Universe, said no to Stephanie McMahon's request. So Stephanie turned the request into an ultimatum, stating to Bryan that at this Sunday he has a decision to make. He can either relinquish the WWE World Heavyweight Championship, or his wife, WWE diva Brie Bella of the Bella Twins, would be fired. a dire situation for Bryan, and one that many superstars have found themselves in, including including commentator Jerry Lawler, who quit when his wife, the Cat, was released from WWE. So, to Bryan, I wouldn't recommend going to Jerry for advice on this one. But nonetheless, Bryan has a big decision to make this Sunday: keep his title, or his wife loses her job. Now, speaking of Jerry Lawler, he found himself in the midst of the Cena Wyatt saga when Bray Wyatt decided to turn his attentions to the longtime Raw announcer, who has always been a big proponent of John Cena, always supported everything Cena has done, and even has supported the times where Cena has stood out as something of a hypocrite. He's always supported Cena in every way. He's always supported his actions, and has always been one of his biggest supporters. Something Bray Wyatt was keen to call Lawler out on. Essentially spewing the Cena propaganda, essentially poisoning the minds of children, was what Bray claimed that Jerry Lawler was doing, and suggested that Lawler come into the ring so he and Wyatt could talk like gentlemen. However, that didn't quite turn out to be the case, as when Jerry refused, Wyatt would sick the Wyatt family on Lawler, not only clotheslining his broadcast partner John Bradshaw Layfield, but dragging him forcefully into the ring and getting ready to deliver Sister Abigail until John Cena came to the rescue, only for the Wyatt family to stop him in his tracks and restrain him while Bray was ready to deliver a beating to Lawler. Thankfully, John Cena's friends, the tag team champions, the Usos, would come down and prevent any harm from coming to the King or Cena. However, as you could see by the look on Cena's face, as you can see here, Cena's really not only physically struggling, but mentally struggling, as this is just another chapter written in the feud between him and Wyatt, and just yet another line that Wyatt has crossed with Cena in trying to completely undermine them going into their last man standing match this Sunday, which I will go into more detail on in our paper preview. Now, coming back to Triple H. Triple H and Evolution had a very interesting night, particularly that Batista and Orton of Evolution, who got called out by the Rhodes brothers, Cody Rhodes and his older brother Goldust, who felt slighted because they hadn't had a match on the show that night. Of course, they posed an open challenge. Evolution accepted, and we had a barn burner of a tag team match. However, right before the match began, Triple H said this would not just be any typical match, and we found this out, and Cody Rhodes and Goldust found this out firsthand. When Cody was going for his famed springboard disaster kick, Randy Orton would counter out of nowhere with an RKO, laying Rhodes out for the 3 count, only for it to be revealed, courtesy of Triple H, that the tag team match was a tag team elimination match, much like the 6-man tag match between The Shield and Evolution is going to be this coming Sunday. That was the first part of the match. Now it was down to Goldust versus Batista and Randy Orton. And the second half of the match was made no holds barred. Safe to say, as wily a veteran as Goldust was, he didn't last too long against Orton and Batista, getting laid out with an RKO Batista bomb combo, and the golden one was laid to rest by the 2 veteran members of Evolution. And that was just only the beginning of Evolution's dominance on Raw that night. Later tonight, we had the vaunted contract signing, of course, because contract signings always go so well in WWE without any sort of brouhaha breaking out. However, and this one wouldn't be any different. The Shield, Ambrose, Reigns, and Rollins just came right down to the ring, tossed out the table, signed the contracts, and essentially just wanted the Evolution to come down so they could fight it out. And that was more or less the case. It was just a flat-out brawl until Triple H broke out the sledgehammer and just reminded everyone how dangerous and how brutal no holds barred can be, laying out all three members of the Shield with sledgehammer shots, and then to cap things off, as you see here, Roman Reigns getting drilled through the announce table by all three members of Evolution in a triple powerbomb. A triple powerbomb. Absolutely devastating. And Evolution sent a clear message to the Shield that they would go to any lengths to prove that Evolution is still the most dominant force in WWE. And that come this Sunday, the Shield will have to prove whether they adapt or perish. Now, it is time for, personally, my favorite segment, where I've got a very interesting call out, as per usual, in Ken's Den. It's not one person I plan on calling out this week. No. Someone, these two or three that I plan on calling out have been a thorn in my side, as well as many fans' side, both in the WWE universe and in the internet wrestling community for many years. And as Michael Cole, Jerry the King Lawler, and John Bradshaw Layfield. The first two, much more than the third man. The problem I've had for the last 6-7 years is that Cole and Lawler have used the most basic humor. They make 50s and 60s references that no one in the age demographic that they're trying to appeal to, the kids. WWE is supposed to be a more kid-friendly program nowadays, a more family-oriented program, and yet they're making references and jokes to things 30, 40 years before anyone's time that no one would get. And not only that, they don't promote the superstars. All they do is tell stories. They tell stories about the wrestlers. They tell innocuous jokes. They brain dead humor that no one, not even children, would want to chuckle at, because it boggles my mind that instead of doing your jobs, instead of actually talking about the wrestling moves, about the wrestlers in the ring, if you're going to tell a story, guys, promote the superstars who are wrestling in the ring. Talk about the feud. Talk about the match. Talk about like their potential match at an upcoming pay-per-view that the wrestlers are involved in. Do that. Don't make like potty humor jokes. No potty humor jokes. No crap jokes. No stupid no knock jokes. Stop making jokes and talk about wrestling. Because if you want to keep kids invested, because the kids are your meal ticket. the WWE universe is a big chunk of it is kids who find wrestling interesting, who find WWE interesting, but the problem is you're the voice that gets across to them. You're the voice that they hear every night on television, and if all they hear is potty humor and stupid jokes and references that they would never get even into their 20s or 30s, then, I mean, who are you trying to appeal to? Answer me that. Who are you trying to appeal to? The bottom line is, I mean, you have there's a commentary team down in WWE's developmental system, made up of a former wrestler in Alex Riley, a legendary wrestler a long-time legendary wrestler in William Regal, and Byron Saxton, who provide great insight, who promote the superstars, who elevate them just by talking about them. They talk about the wrestling holds. They talk about the match psychology. They talk about the match psychology. They talk about like how these certain rest holds will wear a superstar down, like how a sleeper hold will take their air away. Stuff like that. And I love NXT, not just because of the wrestling, because of the commentary behind it. It's leagues above what I watch, what I have to listen to on Raw and SmackDown. Every time I watch Raw and SmackDown, I have to hit the darn mute button because it's just because I can't stand listening to you guys. And don't get me wrong, I have great respect for Jerry the King Lawler. Even before his heart attack, I had great respect for him because he's been a staple of Raw as long as I can remember. And Michael Cole's been around for a long time. And JBL, I love JBL's commentary, but the fact is he's become a caricature of himself. He's become a parody of himself. He's just become an assortment of catchphrases, not unlike what Vince McMahon was when he was a commentator. So essentially, guys, either wisen up, start watching NXT videos so you can get an idea of what you're actually supposed to talk about, or just don't talk at all. Anyway, moving on now, we come to our superstar highlight of the week, the Celtic Warrior, the Belfast Brawler, and the current United States champion, Sheamus. Sheamus first came into WWE through the developmental system in around 2009-2010, and made a quick impact in ECW, sweeping through most of the roster before immediately being moved up to the Raw roster, where he would feud with then WWE champion John Cena, actually upsetting John Cena in a tables match at the TLC pay-per-view and winning his first of three WWE championships. He would go on to become a United States champion and a two-time world heavyweight champion against Daniel Bryan at last year's at WrestleMania 2 years ago, upsetting Daniel Bryan in the infamous 18 seconds match. Throughout his career, Sheamus has been essentially what he claims to be, a Belfast brawler, an Irish brawler, just a no holds barred, physically dominant individual, just laying people out with a Brogue Kick, and celebrating with a pint. He's gone from being an Irish bully to one of the more fan-friendly individuals in WWE, and sometimes in between. Essentially, people just love to, just like people like to watch Big Show for his knockout punch. People love to watch Sheamus for his Brogue Kick, and it's because why he's been one of the more consistent competitors here in WWE, and one of the mainstays for WWE's future. Now, as I'm going to demonstrate here, the Brogue Kick, or otherwise known as the bicycle kick, there's actually a common misconception about the bicycle kick. It's not like the bicycle kick you see in soccer. There's actually a kick in wrestling, the backflip kick, or better known as the pay leg kick. The bicycle kick is actually something you see more in karate or in wrestling. It's also known as the pump kick. It's used typically by big wrestlers such as A-Train, Sheamus, R-Truth, and the Lethal Weapon, Steve Blackman. Essentially, what you do is you get a running start, as so. Essentially, kicking both legs out, while kicking out with the second leg at the right. You get a running start, kick one leg out, and kicking with the second leg out, extending the second leg to impact a running opponent. Now, of course, as you can tell, I'm wearing my mic, so I can't exactly get as much elevation as I would like. But I can guarantee you, if someone like Sheamus hits you with the Brogue Kick, you're staying down. Now, ladies and gentlemen, it is time for our WWE Payback Pay-Per Preview. Now, WWE Payback is just about that. It is about getting payback on your opponent. It's about big time rematches, and there's quite the lineup here. Even though it doesn't have a WWE World Heavyweight Championship match, it is still a pretty stacked card nonetheless. We go into our first match, which is going to be on the WWE Payback pre-show, Hornswoggle versus El Torito. Now, these two had a very interesting match in their WLC match at Extreme Rules, and it was a very and it turned out to be a much more entertaining match than anyone, particularly myself, was willing to give it credit. Now, in this match, however, Hornswoggle and El Torito, Hornswoggle on your left, El Torito on your right, are both willing to put something on the line. Torito will unmask if he loses. However, if Hornswoggle loses, he will have his head shaved bald. A stipulation very popular down in lucha wrestling, down in Mexico. Now, suffice to say, I did find their WLC match at Extreme Rules to be very entertaining. However, I mean, all we've seen after that is just Hornswoggle beating all the members of, El Torito beating all the members of 3MB in increasingly embarrassing situations. And, I mean, that's all we could really expect of this feud, because, I mean, it's essentially what WWE is counting on. It's counting on us trying to be entertained by little people flopping around and being funny. The lowest common denominator humor, I know, but hopefully this match can prove to be just as surprisingly entertaining as it was at Extreme Rules. That being said, frankly, I'm hoping, I mean, I could honestly go either way on this, but I'm going to go with El Torito on this, just because frankly, I'm just curious to see what Hornswoggle looks like shaved bald. See if he looks like a mini Stone Cold Steve Austin. So it should be interesting to see. The next match on the card is something with a little bit of international flavor. We have the American Muscle, Big E, on your left, going up against the Bulgarian Brute and Russian supporter, Alexander Rusev. Now, this one's a little interesting because Big E essentially interrupted Rusev when he and his associate Lana confronted WWE legend and Hall of Famer Hacksaw Jim Duggan. USA, USA, USA. Confronted him, and Big E made the save, attacking Rusev and not necessarily driving him from the ring, but holding him long enough for Duggan to escape. And that's essentially how this feud came to be. And while Big E has made attempts to stave off Rusev, Rusev has physically dominated the feud for the most part. It hasn't really been an even match per se, and we haven't seen these two face off in the ring before this. We haven't seen them in tag team matches. We've just seen confrontations, two confrontations, both of which Rusev has pretty much been on top of. I mean, really, I'm kind of hoping these two move off into separate programs because Big E's kind of in flux. He's kind of lost after losing his Intercontinental Championship, and I don't know if putting him up against the new dominant force in Rusev is the right way to go here. In the same token, I feel like Rusev has a good opponent in Big E, but could benefit with some more main event level talent. That being said, Big E's kind of on the downslope here while Rusev is on the rise. So I'm going with Rusev here to take the match, and I'm kind of expecting to be more of a one-sided affair because we haven't really seen Big E come out on top in this feud, and hopefully this will just be a one-off because I really can't see this feud progressing beyond this match. Moving on, we have our first championship match with the Rookie Divas champion Paige on your left, going against the newly wily and nutty Alicia Fox. Wily, nutty, nutso, whatever you want to call it. Alicia Fox is essentially taking a page out of the AJ Lee playbook, just going buck crazy over the last couple weeks, assaulting ring announcers, tearing apart the ringside area, throwing drinks in her face, going wild and crazy in front of all the fans. And the new change in attitude has worked for her because in Paige's home country of England, Alicia Fox pinned the Divas champion clean, straight up, 1, 2, 3. And now suddenly, this new wily, crazy Fox has found herself in the middle of a championship opportunity. That being said, I can't help but feel like that Fox is just going to be a placeholder until AJ, the original Psycho Diva, AJ makes her return from her long hiatus. It should be an interesting match. It should be a very certainly be a physical match, considering we've seen how brutal Alicia can be. But Paige is not going to take this lying down, and I'm sure she's going to have revenge on her mind for Alicia, considering the last couple of weeks where Alicia has pranced around with the Divas Championship and caused Paige's first loss in front of all her friends and family in England. So I'm sure Paige has some revenge on her mind, and I think that's what's going to lead to Paige retaining her Divas Championship in what I think will be a very close-fought match. Moving on to our second championship match is the Intercontinental title on the line as the champion Bad News Barrett, on your left, faces off with the whole darn show, Rob Van Dam. Now, the problem with this is, even though RVD did win the #1 contendership in the tournament, he hasn't exactly made any sort of impact. As the moment he won the #1 contendership, the champion Bad News Barrett laid him out from behind with a Bad News Bullhammer elbow, and RVD really hasn't fired back. He hasn't really responded physically or verbally to Barrett's assault, to Barrett's barrage, if you will. So I really don't see this being a close match, because RVD was the one who Barrett defeated in the first place to win said Intercontinental Championship. So we know Barrett can beat RVD, and RVD really hasn't done anything to change our minds about that going into this Sunday. So really doesn't take a whole lot to convince me that Barrett's going to walk in to Payback as Intercontinental Champion, and he's going to walk right out as Intercontinental Champion. We have the United States Championship match between the current champion, Sheamus, going up against Cesaro. These two have been feuding over the last few weeks. It's purely physical brawl. Cesaro picking up a non-title win over Sheamus a couple weeks ago, thanks to a timely distraction from Cesaro's associate and supporter Paul Heyman, which netted him this championship opportunity this Sunday at Payback. That being said, Sheamus has become somewhat revitalized as United States champion, while Cesaro's stock has risen since becoming a Paul Heyman guy. So it'll be interesting to see who comes away with the United States Championship. It's going to be a very physical, it's going to be a brutal brawl from the word go. And in John Bradshaw Layfield's words, it's going to be fun to watch, but it's going to be monkey butt ugly, to say the least. That being said, I'm picking Cesaro to come out on top as the King of Swing and the new United States champion. We also have the finale to what's been a physically, mentally, and emotionally starving feud for John Cena and Bray Wyatt. And it's all going to come to a head this Sunday in a last man standing match. Now, the one thing I'm glad about this is it wasn't an I Quit match, because considering John Cena is undefeated in I Quit matches, if this had been made an I Quit match, it would have been pretty much a no-brainer that Cena was going to come out on top here. A last man standing match, Bray Wyatt can look dominant, and Cena doesn't have to take a pin. Essentially, in a last man standing match, you have to beat your opponent down to the point where they cannot respond to a ref's 10 count. That's how it goes. And Bray Wyatt, for the last few months, has done everything he can to undermine John Cena. Undermine him physically, undermine him verbally, and emotionally. He picked up the win at Extreme Rules in what was many considered an underwhelming steel cage match, even with the surprise shock ending of the demon-possessed singing child distracting Cena. Here, you have no distractions. It's just Cena and Wyatt battling out to see who's truly the last man standing. And in Bray Wyatt's mind, if he is the last man standing, Cena's entire world crumbles out from under him. He loses everything that he had built up to this point. He loses his legacy. He loses C Nation. He loses all the support of his fans that he has gathered over the last decade. And Cena's facade, as Bray puts it, will finally be revealed, will finally be exposed to the world, and Cena won't have anything left to stand on. Now, that being said, Cena, I really don't see Cena coming out on top here. This doesn't seem like a position where what happens if Cena wins? It's the status quo, life goes on, the world keeps on spinning. Yet if Bray goes over here, if Bray goes over Cena in somewhat dominant fashion. Bray finally cements himself as not only one of the next big superstars in WWE for the coming years, but also establishes himself as a big threat to whoever may be holding the WWE World title in the future. Bray establishes himself not only as a main eventer, not only as a cornerstone of WWE for years to come, but a main event threat if he wins this match. So I pick Bray Wyatt to win this match, and I pick him to do it in, like I said, in dominant fashion. Any weapons can be used, and once an individual on a team is pinned or made to submit, they have to go to the back. They are eliminated from the match. So this match can completely get out of control. You could go from having a 3-on-3 match. You could go from having a 3-on-3 match to a 3-on-2, even a 3-on-1 situation, which the Shield pointed out this past today on this episode, the latest episode of SmackDown, Friday Night SmackDown. They stated that this can turn ugly real fast. It can turn into a 3-on-1 situation, the Shield versus Triple H, all by his lonesome, and the Shield can finally get the vengeance against Triple H that they've been seeking for the last 2 months, ever since Triple H and the Authority turned on the Shield. Now, that being said, Batista is on his way out to do promotion work for the summer flick Guardians of the Galaxy, and rumors have been circulating that Batista, on his way out, wants to give the rub to Roman Reigns. He wants to give him that push. Now, whether that's true or not, because internet news tends to be gotta take it with a ocean's worth of salt. The fact is, Batista's on his way out, and Evolution doesn't need this win. Triple H doesn't need it. Orton doesn't need it. The main event's always going to be there for Orton, and Batista's on his way out. Triple H is he's no longer in a full-time wrestling mode as the authority figure in WWE. So this could come down to what the Shield is predicting, 3-on-1. However, considering it's no holds barred and that it's Evolution, I see some underhanded tactics on the way, narrowing this down to a 1-on-1 situation between Roman Reigns and Batista. And I see Roman Reigns. Actually, I see it coming down to Roman Reigns and Triple H. And I see Reigns getting that vengeance against Triple H, laying Triple H out with the spear, drilling him with the power. The Shield comes back out. They deliver the triple power bomb, and they get that vengeance on Triple H that they've been seeking for the last 2 months. Suffice to say, I believe the Shield is going to take this match. I believe it's going to be a brutal match. It's going to steal the show. It's going to be the main event, and I think it's going to be one that we remember for a long time, because you have the biggest faction, one of the biggest factions of yesteryear, going up against one of the biggest factions of today, and it's going to be, like it says on the card, it's no holds barred, anything goes. So expect everything and anything to happen in this match. But I'm going to say it right here: the Shield takes this, and they send Evolution packing, and they make Evolution extinct this Sunday. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. My partner Zack will be back next week for us, and we'll review the WWE Payback pay-per-view in our pay-per review, and we'll also go over the fallout from the WWE Payback pay-per-view on Raw, see which feuds ended, see which new feuds start, and hopefully we'll find out the state of Daniel Bryan and the WWE World Heavyweight Championship and whether his wife still has a job this coming Monday. For now, ladies and gentlemen, be connected, get connected, stay connected.
The Wrestling Connection.